Chapter 781. Entering the valley, David found that the entire valley was very wide, and there were dense buildings in it. Compared with the Miao village, it was many times bigger. However, what makes David strange is that there are still many ordinary people in Yaishan Valley who are constantly shuttled, and many children are playing and playing. Not everyone is a martial artist, and not everyone can make alchemy. Looking at David's puzzled expression, Su Chongsheng explained, "Brother Chen, there are tens of thousands of people in our Medicine God Valley, but not everyone is trained in martial arts, and not everyone can refine alchemy. It's like a big village." Later, Su Chongsheng followed David to talk about the history of Yaishengu. David realized that Yaishengu was not as mysterious and terrifying as the rumors from the outside world. In fact, Yaishengu used to be some villagers who escaped from the war and found this valley, so they settled down here and lived a life of indifference. Although it is hidden here, it is not that there is no contact with the outside world at all. Gradually, there will be some martial arts masters who are tired of the secular world, and some Taoists who are devoted to cultivation, also find this place and live. Soon, some of the people here learn to practice martial arts, and some of them learn Taoism, and the formation in the Valley of Medicine God, which was laid during that period, has gone through hundreds of years. 100 years ago, an old man came to the valley. The old man was skilled in medicine. He could exorcise the diseases of the people in the valley. Soon, many people followed the old man to learn medicine and alchemy. Slowly, many talented people also learned excellent medical skills and alchemy, and the life of the people in Medicine God Valley has also been extended a lot. In the end, the old man said that he was going to retreat, and there was no trace. Now no one knows whether the old man is dead or alive, and the name of the Medicine God Valley has also started at that time. After the disappearance of the old man, people in the valley continued to go outside to see a doctor and make alchemy, earn some supplies, and some people tasted the sweetness of the flowery world outside and chose to stay outside to enjoy the glory and wealth. Gradually, people in the outside world called this valley the Valley of the Gods of Medicine, and the people in the valley followed suit. This Valley of Gods of Medicine was not a deliberate name. Mr. Chen, the rules in our valley, the reason why outsiders are not allowed to easily come in is because they are afraid that after those people know that Yaishengu is not so mysterious, they will fight the idea of Yaishengu. At that time, these people in the valley will suffer. Yu Dong explained with David. David nodded. There are so many ordinary people in Yaishan Valley, and many people know that there are many elixir here. If they really have evil intentions, the people in the valley will really suffer. People's hearts are unpredictable. In the face of huge interests, many people will lose their minds, especially those so-called warriors, whose desire for strength exceeds anyone else's. Su Chongsheng led David and the others toward a great hall in the center of the valley. The great hall was built of blue stone. It was very large, more than 20 meters high. Going all the way to the entrance of the main hall, Yu Dong stopped. "Mr. Chen, you go in with the first elder, this is the sect of medicine, only the elders can enter, I will wait outside." David nodded, followed Su Chongsheng into the sect of medicine, and saw smoke lingering in the hall, surrounded by a lot of aromatherapy stoves smoking. The smoke had a faint herbal smell, but after smelling it, it's quite refreshing. In the middle of the hall, there was a copper cauldron that was as tall as a person. The cauldron was still steaming hot, and several people were constantly adding various medicinal materials to it. Chapter 782. When several people saw Su Chongsheng coming back, they hurriedly put down their work and all came over to welcome him. "Elder, have you invited the expert you said? If you can help us develop the earth-level medicine pill, the owner of the valley will definitely be happy." One of the old men in black robes asked. This person is also the elder of Yaishengu, the third in the ranking, and there is no one below the elder who can appear here. 3 elders, let's see how we can save this girl. Su Chongsheng flashed away, and David appeared in front of several people with Xiaolan in his arms. Several elders were stunned and looked at David in surprise. "Elder, this is the sect of medicine. No one can come in except us and the owner of the valley. How can you bring outsiders in?" "Don't say this for now, I'll explain to you later. Let's see if I can save this girl," Su Chongsheng said anxiously. He knew that as long as Xiaolan was rescued, David would owe Ye Shengu a favor. In this case, if David was asked to help Ye Shengu refine the medicine, David would be embarrassed to refuse. Several elders didn't say anything when they saw Su Chongsheng like that, and looked at Xiaolan in David's arms together. An old man with a pale face took Xiaolan's pulse, and then shook his head with an ugly face. "This girl's internal organs have been severely injured, and it is not easy to save her life. If I guessed correctly, you gave this girl something to eat. Life extension pill, right? Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to survive until now." David listened to the old man's words, his face condensed. He has been using his spiritual power to maintain Xiaolan's life, although David also understands medical skills, and his medical skills are very good, but a clever woman can't beat the rice without rice, and now David's tension is inside the lack of spiritual power. He wants to save Xiaolan, unless he returns to his peak state. Although the spiritual chi of Medicine God Valley is relatively full at the moment, it is meaningless to David. These spiritual chi is sucked into the body, like a stone sinking into the sea. Second Elder, where is the owner of the valley? The owner of the valley does not have a heaven-returning pill, which can bring people back to life. If this girl eats it, she will definitely be saved. Su Chongsheng asked the old man with a pale face. "Elder, you don't have a fever, right?" The second elder was stunned. "Then Tiandan is the treasure of the valley owner. You let the valley owner eat it for this irrelevant woman? Is it possible? Why is it irrelevant? This girl is Brother Chen's friend, and Brother Chen is the expert I found who can make earth-level pills." Su Chongsheng pointed at David. "Brother Chen not only the strength is superior, he can kill Wuzong, and he has superb alchemy skills, and he can refine earth-level medicinal pills. The most important thing is the formation method that Brother Chen still understands." After hearing Su Changshen's words, several elders looked at David in surprise, as if they had seen aliens. "Elder, you're not kidding us, are you? This kid is only 20 years old, and the lanugo hasn't fallen off. We may be as good as you said. Even if he alchemy from his mother's womb, it is impossible for him to cultivate the earth. Tear pills." The three elders were full of disbelief. The third elder is right, this kid is so young, how could he have mastered the earth-level medicine pill, and his strength is as powerful as you said. This kid and this girl shouldn't be your relatives, you are the only one. Did you say that on purpose? The second elder also looked at Su Chongsheng in disbelief. "If you don't believe me, I asked Brother Chen to train you an earth-level pill on the spot. I, Su Chongsheng, have lied for so many years." Seeing that these people didn't believe in him, Su Chongsheng was furious. "Elder Su," David hurriedly stopped Su Chongsheng. "I'm sorry, I can't practice the level promise you said. I can only practice some ordinary big return pills, small return pills and so on." Chapter 783. David didn't have the ability to practice the earth-level pills. At that time, Su Chongsheng saw the Zisui pills he had taken, and thought he had practiced them himself. In fact, Long Wu gave it to David. Although he obtained the Shenengding, David has not used it yet, so he does not know if he can practice the pill. "Ha ha ha, great elder, see if you don't see it, this kid has admitted it himself. How could he possibly have mastered the earth-level medicine pill at his age, and even the other 2 points you said are exaggerated, he was able to kill Wuzong. Can you still see the formation? You should be helping him from behind, right?" The three elders laughed. Su Chongsheng was speechless. He glanced at the other elders and said, "Are you guys not believing me?" Su Changshen's face was ugly, obviously angry. When several people saw Su Chongsheng getting angry, they all kept their mouths shut. After all, Su Chongsheng was the great elder. When the Valley Master was away, Su Chongsheng had the final say. Elder, don't be angry, even if what you said is true, there is no way to save the girl now. The owner of the valley has been out for 2 days, and it is estimated that he will be back in 2 days. The second elder said. Do you know where the Valley Master went? Su Chongsheng was stunned. When he left, the Valley Master was still there, but now he has left. Then who knows, we don't dare to ask, the owner of the valley just explained that we should make alchemy at home. The second elder shook his head. This time, Su Chongsheng was in a dilemma. The Valley Master was not there. The few of them did not have the ability to cure Xiaolan, so they could only wait for the Valley Master to come back. Brother Chen, I'm so sorry, the owner of the valley is not here, you can only wait here for 2 days, you put this girl here first, although I can't cure her now, but I can guarantee that within the next few days, this girl will be fine. Su Chongsheng looked at David apologetically and said. David calculated the time, there were still a few days left on July 15th, and it would be fine to wear it in Yaishan Valley for 2 days, so he nodded. Su Chongsheng hurriedly took David and put Xiaolan in the room next to the sect of medicine. The whole room was filled with a strong herbal smell. After Xiaolan was settled, Su Chongsheng asked Yu Dong to take David to rest. Su Chongsheng found David a room very close to the sect of medicine, so that he could see Xiaolan. Seeing Su Chongsheng being so respectful to David, the other elders were all puzzled, and until now they didn't believe that David had the skills Su Chongsheng said. After staying in Yaishan Valley, Yu Dong brought 3 meals a day to David, and David didn't leave the house. After all, he was an outsider. If he wandered in Yaishan Valley rashly, he was afraid of causing misunderstandings. But he was bored in the room by himself. David remembered the Shenengding, so he took out the Shenengding and punched it with spiritual power, and the size of the Shenengding instantly increased. Looking at the tall Shenengding, David jumped up and sat directly inside the Shenengding. A large amount of spiritual energy emerged from Shenengding, and was quickly sucked into the body by David. After a night, the sky was just getting bright, and suddenly a dazzling strong light shone on the entire valley bottom of Yaishan Valley, and then the strong light dimmed, and finally disappeared. Everyone in Yaishengu was wondering what the bright light was just now. In David's room, David looked at his body and felt the surging spiritual power in his danshan. David was so excited that he almost jumped up. Breakthrough, I finally broke through a small realm. David clenched his fists slightly, and after opening the window, he swung towards a boulder that weighed 1,000 jin on a mountain not far away. Rumbling! The boulder was smashed to pieces, and the entire Yaishan Valley was shaken, as if there was an earthquake, and the scattered stone chips almost covered the entire Yaishan Valley. Chapter 784. What's the matter? Is it going to rain? It's flashing and thundering again. Is there an earthquake? The house is about to collapse. It's raining stones, and it smashed my head into a bag. Everyone in Yaishengu got up and gathered to discuss this. David was stunned when he saw his fist. With a small increase in realm, the power has increased so much? It's incredible. David didn't even think that after raising a small realm, his strength actually improved a lot. Today's David, when he encounters that Xiahedun, can almost reach the point of killing him with one sword. With a wave of his hand, the dragon-slaying sword appeared in David's hand, and the dragon-slaying sword hummed, as if congratulating David. Dong dong dong! At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and David hurriedly put away the dragon-slaying sword and Shenengding. David opened the door and found that Yu Dong was standing at the door. Mr. Chen, you've been here for 2 days, aren't you too bored? I'll take you out for a walk. Yu Dong said to David. Didn't Elder Su say that I am an outsider and can't walk around in Medicine God Valley, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble? David was a guest. Since Su Chongsheng said so, David didn't break the rules of others. After all, Su Chongsheng was kind to David. Don't worry, no one will recognize you. With that said, Yu Dong took out a hat and a pair of sunglasses. Mr. Chen puts these on, no one can recognize them. I just happened to show Mr. Chen the magic of my medicine god Valley. Hearing what Yu Dong said, David was also curious about what Yu Dong said was magical, so he put on his hat and sunglasses and followed Yu Dong out of the room. The two had breakfast, and many people greeted Yu Dong on the road, but no one paid attention to David. Yu Dong took David to the depths of Yaishan Valley. With the continuous deepening, there were fewer and fewer ordinary people. At the back, there were some martial artists who exuded aura, and their strengths were high and low. These warriors are also polite when they see Yu Dong, which shows that Yu Dong's status in Yaishan Valley is not low. After walking for a while, it was difficult to see people. At this time, the valley had not yet reached the end. At a glance, it seemed that there were endless roads behind, but the peaks on both sides seemed to look exactly the same. It's like being reflected in a mirror. Mr. Chen, no one has ever come to the end of this road, and no one knows where the end is. I once walked curiously for a day and a night, but I found that there is still an endless number ahead. Yu Dong pointed to the road ahead and said, "There is no end? How can there be such a place?" David felt a little weird. "Mr. Chen, if you don't believe me, I'll show you around for a while." With that said, Yu Dong condensed his energy under his feet, and his speed instantly increased. Seeing this, David immediately followed suit. At this time, the speed of the two is already extremely fast. If this is seen by ordinary people on a crowded road, it is estimated that they will be stunned. In this way, the two ran for an hour. Yu Dong stopped, his forehead was covered in sweat, and he was out of breath. David's face was not blushing and his heart was not beating, and he looked at the road in front of him strangely. It stands to reason that at such a speed, they have now travelled nearly 100 miles, but David found that the scene in front of him seemed to have not changed. But he clearly felt that he was moving forward, not standing still. "Mr. Chen, did I lie to you? Let's see if it's not over yet." Yu Dong panted and followed David. David did not speak, but frowned slightly and slowly closed his eyes. Chapter 785. The consciousness spread instantly, and David planned to use his consciousness to inquire about it first to see what was going on. However, David's consciousness had just been released, as if he had caught a glimpse of an invisible wall. It bounced back in an instant, and could not be released at all. David opened his eyes and looked at the place a few meters in front of him. Whoever stretched out his hands, constantly groping for something in the air. "Mr. Chen, what are you doing?" Yu Dong was very puzzled by David's behavior and couldn't help asking. "Blindfolded, we have been running for so long, but we have never left here at all, that's why we see exactly the same peaks on both sides of the road." David's hands emitted a faint red light, and under the illumination of the red light, a wall that seemed to be invisible, like ripples on the water surface, appeared in front of David and them. Could it be that someone set up a formation here to prevent others from going into the valley? Yu Dong said with a little understanding. "It should be, but I haven't found where the eye of this formation is, how to break this formation." David nodded. "Is there anything that can't be done in the depths of this valley? Why do you want to set up a formation?" Yu Dong was very puzzled. "I don't know. Now we can only really enter the depths of the valley by passing through this wall." The red light on David's hand became stronger and stronger, and the wall became more and more clear. Yu Dong stepped forward and lightly touched the glass-like wall, but as soon as Yu Dong stretched out his hand, his arm passed through the wall, and then Yu Dong walked over directly. This surprised Yu Dong. "Mr. Chen, didn't I come through here? It's nothing special." David shook his head. "You didn't go through it, now you walk forward, it's still the same scene. If you really pass through this wall, the place you reach should be a different scene. You don't understand this, and I can't discuss it in detail. You explain, this is like a three-dimensional and four-dimensional space. Passing through this wall is equivalent to entering another space. Space portal. Yudong blurted out, Mr. Chen, although I know that some formations are very strange, but what you said is too outrageous. How could there be such a formation? Yudong didn't believe it at all, but at this time David was not talking, but slowly pushed his hand towards the wall. Slowly, David's arm passed through, and in Yudong's eyes at this moment, David suddenly lost his arms. Yudong's eyes widened, Mr. Chen, your arm, why is your arm missing? David looked at his body, not only did not panic, but said happily, I seem to know how to pass through. Immediately afterwards, David's body rushed forward, and then David personally appeared in another space, and the scene on both sides changed a lot in an instant. Mr. Chen, Mr. Chen. At this time, Yudong suddenly found that David was gone, so he shouted anxiously. You're waiting for me here, I'll take a look first. David's voice came, but David could not be seen at all. At this time, Yudong only believed what David said. Is this the so-called enchantment? David looked at the scene on both sides and remembered that Irvin had mentioned this to him. The so-called enchantment is to enclose a place with a formation, but in the eyes of outsiders, it is impossible to find that this place disappears. Speaking of which, the place where David is still in the Medicine God Valley, and there is no other space. The mountains on both sides are still the original mountains, but there have been some changes. The trees on the mountains are denser, and many animals can be seen. Chapter 786. David found that because of the enchantment, it was inaccessible, and it was estimated that there had been no signs of human activity for decades. Many animals were scared to hide when they saw David, who suddenly appeared. David walked slowly along the valley, looking at the peaks on both sides from time to time. Since someone has set up a barrier here, there must be something that you don't want to be seen. David had been walking for more than half an hour. At this time, a straight mountain stood in front of him. This should be the end of Yaishan Valley, but it is almost impossible to climb out of the valley from this mountain. Standing upright, even a master of Wuzong's strength would not be able to climb the rock. Is there nothing here? David's brows wrinkled slightly, and then his consciousness dispersed, and hundreds of meters in radius were presented in David's mind. Soon, David found a cave on the left side of the mountain more than 10 meters high, but because it was blocked by trees, David did not find it. David exerted a little force under his feet, and jumped to the entrance of the cave. The entrance was so small that only one person could enter. In order to prevent accidents, David used his spiritual sense to explore the cave and found nothing. I didn't feel any breath, there was no living thing in the cave, and there was no spiritual energy emitting from the cave, which proved that there were no treasures, but since he had come, David decided to go in and have a look. Slowly stretched out his right hand, a mass of flames beat in David's palm, and all of a sudden the entrance of the cave was very bright. David walked into the cave and saw that the cave was very dark and damp, the stone walls were still full of moss, and irregular stones were piled up everywhere. It was obvious that someone had lived here. With the light of the flame, David slowly wanted to go inside. After walking for more than 20 meters, the cave began to dry out, and then the front suddenly opened up, and a hall of dozens of square meters appeared. There is also a table in the middle of the hall. There are candles on the table, but the candles have long been extinguished. Looking at the side of the hall, there are some daily necessities, but these things are covered with thick dust. When David shifted his gaze to the other side, David was taken aback and saw a thin, wrinkled old man sitting cross-legged on a stone bench. The old man's eyes were slightly closed, motionless, and his grey beard was half a meter long, but the old man was also covered with dust, apparently he hadn't moved for a long time. David calmed down and covered the old man with his divine sense. Only then did he find that the old man had long since been breathing. However, looking at the old man's appearance, it was as if he had just sat down, and the whole person was lifelike. In front of the old man, there was a yellow book, which was also full of dust. David blew lightly, the dust on the yellow paper was blown away, and the words on the book were revealed. Supreme Dan Record. David looked at the book in front of him and felt very curious. Could it be the Book of Alchemy? Are all the pills recorded in it? David slowly picked up the yellow paper. But when David's hand just touched the book, suddenly the book ignited a flame, burning the book completely in an instant. David was stunned for a moment, and was immediately annoyed. He thought that he had accidentally ignited this alchemy with the flame on his palm. But just when David was annoyed, a light suddenly flashed in his mind, and then countless pills flashed in David's mind. Young man, you have inherited my supreme pill record, and you need to carry forward my medicine God Valley. An old voice sounded in David's mind, and the voice was full of vicissitudes. Chapter 787. David instinctively looked at the old man in front of him, and at this time, the old man's corpse began to change. The original lifelike corpse began to turn black a little at this moment, and then the whole body shrank, and finally turned into a corpse. A pile of dead bones. At this moment, the cave began to shake, and some stones began to fall, obviously about to collapse. Seeing this, David hurriedly ran out. Just after he ran out of the entrance of the cave, the entire cave was buried. Looking at the buried cave, David was speechless. He just wanted to see what book it was, but didn't think about inheriting the Medicine God Valley. It is also necessary to carry forward the Medicine God Valley. How can David have the time to manage the Medicine God Valley? There are a lot of things that I haven't dealt with yet. But now that Supreme Pill Lu was already in David's mind, it was useless to say anything, he could only take a step by step. Leaping down from the mountain, David began to walk back. Just after walking for a while, I met Yudong, who hurried over. Mr. Chen. After Yudong saw David, he hurriedly shouted. Yudong, how did you get in? David was a little puzzled. How could Yudong come in with the barrier blocking it? I don't know, I just kept walking like this, and I saw you. Yudong was also full of doubts. David probed with his divine sense and found that the existing wall was no longer there, presumably because he entered the cave. But David didn't say anything, but went back with Yudong. Mr. Chen, have you found anything here? Will there be treasures? Yudong is not stupid, he knows that since someone has set up such a big formation in Yaishan Valley, it must be to protect something and not let people enter casually. Nothing. David shook his head. Yudong glanced at David, and the thin clothes really couldn't hide anything. Yudong, who was full of doubts, followed David to go back, and before he reached the place where he lived, he met Su Chongsheng, who came in a hurry. Brother Chen, why did you come out? Our valley owner is back, and we want to see you now. Su Chongsheng was a little surprised when he saw that David came back from outside. Oh, it's a bit boring to stay there, let Yudong take me out to breathe. David did not betray Yudong, let's go. Su Chongsheng didn't think much, and walked towards the sect of medicine with David. Brother Chen, our valley master has a weird personality. He is a real practitioner, and his alchemy technique is also pure and pure. When you meet him, don't be impatient, keep a low profile, your friend will definitely be saved. Su Chongsheng told David along the way. David just nodded and didn't speak. He didn't know what to say yet. Someone had passed down this Medicine God Valley to him. Soon, Su Chongsheng took David into the hall. At this moment, several other elders were kneeling on the ground, and when Su Chongsheng entered the door, he knelt down. Gu Master, Brother Chen brought. It can be seen that these elders are very afraid of this Medicine God Valley Master. David looked at the Master of Yaishengu Valley above the main hall, and saw Yaishengu had white hair, but his face was very ruddy, his skin was like a baby's, he had a childlike face, and he was wearing a Taoist robe, quite like a fairy. David's brow suddenly wrinkled slightly when he saw the Medicine God Valley Master for the first time. He could feel the bloody aura from the Medicine God Valley Master, a very strong bloody aura, even if the Medicine God Valley Master was working hard to use his breath. Covering up the bloody smell on his body, David still noticed it. Apart from this bloody smell, the aura on the Medicine God Valley Master actually followed Su Chongsheng and the other elders without the slightest similarity, as if the Medicine God Valley Master did not belong to this Medicine God Valley. Chapter 788. Although everyone cultivates differently, if they belong to the Valley of Medicine Gods, even if they practice different exercises, they will have the same breath. However, the breath of the Valley Master of Medicine God Valley is different from anyone in the valley. David, who felt that something was wrong, exuded spiritual consciousness, and wanted to investigate in depth what kind of cultivation method this Yaoshengu Valley Master was practicing, but just after David's spiritual consciousness was released, it was given to him by an invisible force. After blocking it back, it is obvious that the Valley Master of Medicine God Valley has already noticed it. David and the Medicine God Valley Master looked at each other, neither of them spoke first. "Brother Chen, kneel down, don't kneel down quickly." Su Chongsheng was on the side, reminding David in a low voice, but David didn't seem to hear it. After a while, the Medicine God Valley Master waved his hand, "You all get up." A few people who looked for them all stood up, then stepped back and stood on both sides, slightly bowing their heads, and no one dared to look up. "You're the genius who can practice the earth-level pills and cultivate both martial arts and martial arts?" the Valley Master of Medicine God Valley asked slowly. David shook his head, "I can't practice earth-level pills. As for the dual cultivation of martial arts, I only know a little bit of magic, and I'm not really a genius." "Ha ha ha, young people are quite modest," Yaoshengu Valley Master laughed, "is that girl your girlfriend?" The Master of Medicine God Valley pointed at Xiaolan, who was lying on the side of the hall. "Friend, not girlfriend," David shook his head. "A friend, your friend's internal organs have been severely damaged. You can only save your life with one breath. You may die at any time. Now I have a way to save your friend's life, but I heard that you have a treasure cauldron on your body. Can you let me pass it?" the Master of Medicine God Valley said directly. David glanced at Su Chongsheng. Obviously this was what Su Chongsheng told the Valley Master of Medicine God Valley. Su Chongsheng hurriedly explained, "Brother Chen, our Valley Master has come to study the copper cauldron quickly. After all, the copper cauldron is indispensable for refining medicine pills. Just let our Valley Master show you whether it is a good thing." After hearing this, David could only take out the Sheneng Ding, a Sheneng Ding the size of a palm, and put it in David's hand, which immediately caused several other elders to laugh. "I've never seen such a small copper tripod before. Where is this copper tripod? It's clearly an incense burner. I think the incense burner is bigger than this. What can this copper tripod do?" Several elders couldn't help laughing. But at the moment when David took out the Sheneng Ding, the owner of the Medicine God Valley stood up directly from the chair, his eyes were hot. But soon, Yaoshengu Valley Master returned to normal, sat back again, and said to David, "Little brother, your copper tripod is quite delicate, I don't know where you got it from." "A gift from a friend," David said lightly. The Valley Master of Medicine God Valley nodded, "I will save your friend's life, you can rest assured. Stay in Medicine God Valley for 2 days, then your friend will recover." David heard that Xiaolan could be saved, but there was no expression on his face, as if Xiaolan's life had nothing to do with him. Seeing this, Su Chongsheng hurriedly stepped forward, "Gu Master, I thank the Valley Master on behalf of Brother Chen. Elder Su, take this little brother down, let's have dinner together at noon." The Master of Medicine God Valley waved his hand. Su Chongsheng nodded, and then said to David, "Brother Chen, let's go." Since the owner of the valley agreed, your friend must be saved. David glanced at Xiaolan, who was lying on one side, and followed Su Chongsheng out of the hall. After walking out of the hall, Su Chongsheng saw that David's expression was a little wrong, so he asked, "Brother Chen, don't you believe our Valley Master? Our Valley Master is very powerful. He said that if he can save your friend, he will definitely save." Chapter 789. Elder Su, have you, the owner of the valley, been living in the valley all the time? David asked Su Chongsheng thoughtfully. Of course, for the past 30 years, the owner of the valley has been living in the valley, but sometimes he will go out of the valley. Su Chongsheng returned to the road. 30 years. David was taken aback. Didn't your valley owners grow up in this valley? Su Chongsheng shook his head. Our valley master came to Yaishan Valley 30 years ago. At that time, our old valley master happened to be missing, and the group of dragons had no leader. After the valley master arrived, he used his own alchemy and Taoism to let everyone. I am convinced, especially since the owner of the valley has refined the longevity pill. Every time one eats a longevity pill, it can prolong his life by 3 to 5 years. However, the raw materials of this longevity pill are too scarce, and the valley owner will occasionally give it to us. Eat one, so we recommend him to be the owner of the valley. Hearing Su Changshen's explanation, David suddenly realized that this valley owner was a monk halfway through. It is no wonder that David felt a different aura from the Yaishan Valley owner just now. But at this moment, David still can't figure out the strong bloody smell on the Yaishengu Valley Master. Could it be that the Yaishengu Valley Master went to kill? And with such a strong bloody smell, it is absolutely impossible to kill a person. David can't figure it out. Why did the incompetent Yaishengu Valley Master want to kill? David couldn't figure it out, so he didn't even think about it, but just after he took out the Sheneng Ding, the Yaishengu Valley Master's reaction was obviously to know that he was holding the Sheneng Ding, and the heat in his eyes, obviously with desire. David always felt that there was something wrong with the Master of Medicine God Valley, and the meal at noon was likely to be the Hung Men banquet. As the so-called wealth is not revealed, he showed the Sheneng Ding himself. It is difficult for people who know the value of the Sheneng Ding to not show their desires. However, Xiaolan was still lying in the sect of medicine, and David couldn't walk away, so he planned to check the situation. At noon, in a huge restaurant in Yaishengu, several elders and the owner of Yaishengu were all there, and only David was an outsider. In front of everyone, there was a small porcelain plate with a bright red medicinal pill on it. "Brother Chen, this is the longevity pill I told you. Our valley owner is really kind to you. He even invited you to eat the longevity pill. It's hard for us to eat it." Su Chongsheng sat next to David and whispered to David. The other elders looked at the Zheng Shao pill in front of them, their eyes lit up, and they couldn't wait to swallow it. After all, the desire for life is something everyone has. Who doesn't want to live longer? Even if they have now reached the realm of Wuzong, even if they can refine their worries and save lives, but no one can stop the pace of time, they will still grow old and die of old age. Now a longevity pill can increase the lifespan of 3 to 5 years. If this is taken to the outside world, I am afraid that the top rich will buy it when they go bankrupt. Okay, let's eat. The Master of Medicine God Valley spoke, and several elders couldn't wait to eat the Zheng Shao pill, and Su Chongsheng also threw it into his mouth and swallowed it. However, David picked up the Zheng Shao pill in front of him, but did not eat it. A ray of spiritual power was injected into the Zheng Shao pill, and then a thick bloody smell came out instantly. David's face changed, and his brows were wrinkled, because at this moment David's mind instantly appeared in the material for refining the longevity pill. This longevity pill is not made from precious herbs, but the human heart, made from the beating hearts of living people, and these people must be babies under 6 months old. Use the baby's heart to refine medicine pills and increase your lifespan? Chapter 790. David gritted his teeth. This kind of alchemy technique is no different from those evil cultivators. Maybe this medicine god valley owner is an evil cultivator. David's eyes slowly looked at the Valley Master of the Medicine God Valley, and this guy really had a good plan. Yaya Shengu has a good reputation for saving lives and helping the wounded outside, but no one would have thought that the owner of the Yaya Shengu with such a good reputation is an evil cultivator who uses a baby's heart to refine medicine pills. This guy is taking advantage of this. He stayed for 30 years, and I don't know how many babies he killed. Unconsciously, David showed murderous aura, and the atmosphere in the entire restaurant suddenly condensed. Brother Chen, what's wrong with you? This longevity pill is a good thing. Seeing the murderous aura rising from David's body and staring at the Valley Master of Medicine God Valley, Su Chongsheng asked in a low voice. Good thing. David snorted coldly, and then squeezed Zheng Xiaodan, and instantly the room was filled with a thick bloody smell. Boy, you are so unreasonable. If you don't eat this longevity pill, you can give it to us and waste it like this. It's a pity. The third elder was furious and stood up and accused David. Brother Chen, what are you doing? Su Chongsheng frowned. What to do? I don't dare to say this kind of medicinal pill made from a baby's heart. Even if it can increase one's lifespan by 100 years, so what? I'm afraid of being punished by God. David's face was gloomy. Hearing David's words, everyone was stunned, but the Medicine God Valley Master's eyes narrowed slightly, and the breath on his body began to rise. What nonsense are you talking about? This is not the first time we have eaten this longevity pill. How could it be made from a baby's heart? How could our Valley Master use the means of evil cultivation to refine the pill? The second elder clapped the table and got up, roaring at David. The other elders also got up and accused David. At this time, Su Changshen's expression also changed slightly. Brother Chen, our Valley Master has been in Medicine God Valley for 30 years, and countless people have been saved by his hands. You can't slander our Valley Master. Did I slander him? David smiled coldly, and then squeezed the magic with both hands, and a golden light suddenly appeared, shining towards the Valley Master of the Medicine God. Today I will let you take a good look, your Valley Master. Is it an evil cultivator? Bold, dare to take the initiative to argue. Seeing this, several elders suddenly shot at David. Several elders are all Wuzong, and their strength is strong. David alone cannot withstand the attacks of several elders. The immortals who can cure millions of people can be treated, and those who are good at curing diseases should not be bullied. Lemo is happy to Chang'an City, and make people live as long as the Queen Mother of the West. Just when several elders attacked David, David suddenly said a few words, but it was these few words that instantly made several elders stop and stay on the spot. And that Su Chongsheng looked at David excitedly. Brother Chen, you said, who told you these words? These are the first few sentences of the Supreme Pill record, isn't it also the purpose of your Medicine God Valley? David said slowly. Hearing the words Supreme Pill Lu, Su Chongsheng became even more excited, and grabbed David's collar with both hands. How do you know the Supreme Pill Lu? Lord? Where is he? David was about to explain with Su Chongsheng, but he felt a strong wind blowing, and the Valley Master of Medicine God started to attack David. The terrifying energy came in an instant, which directly caught David by surprise. But when the energy reached David's face, Su Chongsheng on the side waved abruptly, and a barrier appeared, blocking the energy. Elder Su, do you want to rebel? The Valley Master of Medicine God Valley frowned and glared at Su Chongsheng.